Good day, everyone. I'm Ethan, moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, Building the Summer Bridge Program, Crucial Steps for Today's Colleges. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Ken Seaver. Ken Seaver has 23 years of experience in the field of student assessment, prior learning, and academic success. I would now like to hand over the floor to the marvelous speaker. Over to you, Kent.
Thank you, Ethan, and thank you all very much for attending, especially during the noon hour if you're here in the Central, because there's always a lot of things that you can be doing. So taking the time to learn about the summer bridge is very, very important. For a lot of you, including where I am right now, we're in the middle of spring registration. And when I look at our spring registration numbers, it really makes me really happy to know that a lot of those students came through the bridge program and are where they are right now and are able to take the classes that they can right now because of what they've learned through programs like the Summer Bridge. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. Steps that you can take at your colleges, if you're not already, to make that transition to higher education a little smoother, maybe even a little bit easier for today's students. I want to go ahead and answer some questions during today's presentation, and the questions are on the screen right now. Things that colleges may do in terms of students that is well intended, but may not always hit the mark in terms of success. This next slide is interesting because the actual quote itself is actually a lot shorter than the citation, but I wanted to do everything correctly. But it gives us a good understanding of what are summer bridge programs for those of you who might be trying to create one from scratch. Well, as you can see from the Journal of Education and Social Science, they're generally designed to provide, as you can see, academic as well as social support. Now, what exactly goes into these specific programs? You're going to usually have some sort of an orientation to what college life is all about, either whether you live on campus or whether you commute. I mentioned academic advising as being very, very important as part of the Summer Bridge program, but it's important to know that there's a certain type and certain way advising can really assist the Summer Bridge student. One idea in terms of an actual higher ed intervention is to look at the use of intrusive advising as it relates to bridge programs. Now, in terms of models of intrusive advising that work, you can see that their whole intrusive advising program is on an individual basis, as it should. And because of this, it allows each student's unique situation to be addressed. Another model, and I find this really, really successful when individual colleges really believe in using remedial or other prescriptive education, is the co-requisite, sometimes referred to as mainstreaming plan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, something that I've had a lot of experience with in terms of student success and bridge work, if you will, is what I call and what is called the pre-assessment activity. It happens before a student is actually assessed or placed in classes based upon some sort of standardized exam. We have a Summer Bridge model that has been very successful that I wanted to share with you that also can be replicated. Now, it's geared toward higher performing students who didn't receive university track curriculum. Now, in terms of the actual model itself, this is how it works. The studies program has a track record of success by putting 90% of students returning as sophomores. But to go a step further, completing the Summer Bridge program as an enrollment requirement there. In such a program, the introduction to high academic expectations is addressed, and you're talking about your strategies and study skills. Ladies and gentlemen, the last one that I want to show you right now is Georgia State University, which most of you know is in Atlanta, Georgia. They address it by focusing specifically on your core classes. It's a process, but it's a process that determines what something is. Evaluation, on the other hand, uses information based on the evidence to make judgments of a relatively good value. The components for effective Summer Bridge programs that Alicia Gonzalez and Nora Garza created, what we also do here in the business school, the JSOM is the Jindal School of Management. We have a strong business communications center. I think we all know that when you're dealing with the Summer Bridge program, you're dealing with a lot of students from first-generation families, first-generation college students, first generation in this country, or both. Those first-generation student issues, both of which are very successful or have been successful. For a basic understanding, you can see on the screen, peer-to-peer mentoring is student-directed, But it's not just something that the mentee gets. The mentor themselves also receives something in terms of success. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing you can take away from this today, is that there is no reason to not have some sort of a summer bridge program. That concludes our presentation today. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate this again very much. I talked a lot about academics, but I also talked about the social emotional framework to build student engagement, because that's so important when you want to reduce any transitional student issues, especially for new people that have never been to college or don't have that particular experience. It's important for us as college professionals to have multiple ideas. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all model, and I think some of the questions even showed that too. Thank you all very, very much, Ethan and everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken. That does conclude the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you.